Please welcome to the stage Thomas Kolster.
Thank you. Dobro dan. How you all feeling? Feeling energized? Had a good lunch? Yeah? For those of you folks who are watching outside, I'm really jealous on all of you on the beach right now. So all these people in the room care a lot about climate and sustainability, which I'm going to talk about. The rest of you don't, but that's okay. But I will randomly pick some of you as winners and give away a book. For all of those lovely, lovely people here in the room, I'm going to pick one of you. But anyway, so you know what day am I going to talk about sustainability on and why. It's a pretty depressing topic, sustainability and climate change. I know, right? Because we're pretty fucked. And we're pretty fucked as an industry as well, because all this thing about overconsumption. So why at all talk about it? What day do we have it today? What are we celebrating today? Anybody got an idea? Oh, good. Yes, Earth Day. So Earth Day got inaugurated in 1970. So like 50 years have passed. Can you believe that? I don't know how of you. I've been partying a little bit the last couple of days. I've seen some of your faces around. Anybody crashed the hotel room? Anybody? Smashed a beer? Pissed anywhere in the reception area? No? No? Why are we doing that to planet Earth? On Earth Day. Why are we doing that? We've had 50 years and we're still not doing anything about it. Any of you read the latest climate report, IPCC report, where a panel of agreeing scientists is saying we should have acted yesterday, not today. So there's a lot of pressure on all of us. And I know that all of us working advertising, we are like, yeah, fuck Thomas. I have to think about AI, digitalization, automation. Who really cares about sustainability? It doesn't really matter. But if we are to build brands that last, that people love, we need to think about these things. Think about it. Branding, it's a relationship-building exercise. I don't know how many of you would really appreciate an AI automated Valentine's card or love letter. Any of you? No? So the reason why this topic is so incredibly important is because it's about building relationships with people, things that people care about. So I'm going to talk a lot about purpose. I know some of you heard Paul talk about purpose. And I've been on a long journey on this sort of purpose thing. I wrote a book years ago called Good Advertising. But the one I'm going to talk about today is called The Hero Trap. Because right now, I believe if we are to succeed, we urgently need to mobilize people, to activate people, and build brands that people love. So my little venture into all of this started 15 years ago. One important event, because we had the climate summit in Copenhagen, COP15, and this sort of happened. Not a lot of sleeping government officials. So I thought to myself, I was a young, aspiring copywriter. Any copywriters here? Copywriters? No? What the heck happened to our industry? It's all like influencers and art directors. Good, yeah. Good, yeah. No, so I started out as a young copywriter, and I thought to myself, so what can I do? So I had a very early, young, aspiring belief, as you have when you're a young person. So I wrote my first book called Good Advertising. Kind of lies in the title, right? Using brands as a force for good. So back then, it was brands like Dove, Unilever started their sustainable living plan, Body Shop, all these brands that we today know as purposeful brands, right? So the thing is just that it's almost like this space has changed. Because I don't know how you feel about all these brands that are pitching themselves as purposeful. I mean, you can barely not go into a supermarket chain without them talking about ocean plastics, diversity, all this stuff. So right now, the space looks a little bit like this. Look at us. Look at how goddamn cool we are. Look at what we're doing for the seals. Look at what we're doing for diversity. And that doesn't actually look that good. We didn't hear Jesus running around bragging about, saying, hey, Judas, I made this blind woman see again. He didn't really do that. So why are we doing that as brands? Why are we pitching brands as these world-saving heroes? Because what tends to happen is it'll fail. Let me give you an example. So if I'd come into the nightclub yesterday, as I did, but if I came in there and I said, hey, listen up, I'm the world's greatest lover. At some point, somebody had figured out that I probably wasn't. And it's the same thing with brands. So we're giving ourselves a too big a pledge that we can deliver on. So how do we go from there? If you really listen to what brands are saying, we're the best at this, we're the best at this. Take Patagonia as an example. We cannot have a conference around sustainability without Patagonia, right? Always talk about Patagonia. But if you really listen to what Patagonia is saying, we're in the business to save our home planet. That's a pretty bold statement, isn't it? No? I mean, they do t-shirts. I mean, if you told me I'm going to save our home planet, I'd be like, maybe, maybe a little bit like. So it's almost like if we put most brands in a psychologist's chair, I'm pretty sure the psychologist would rather say that either the brand is megalomaniac or just plain crazy. So how do we build brands that we believe in, that's authentic? So think about this one question. So when I wrote my second book, The Hero Trap, I asked myself this question: what brand, leader, or organization have in fact created real change in your life? Have a think about it. What brand, leader, or organization have created real change in your life? Because if you think about it, right now, every little brand out there pits themselves as messiahs or Jesus, but who have actually created that change? So if we want to build purposeful brands, how do we do it? What's authentic and who should we trust? Because at the moment, we are failing. Because people aren't trusting in us as the one that's going to save all this mess. Even from within our own industry, people are beginning to stand up against the brands that we so lovingly have built. Creatives for Climate, others. For those of you who were in Cannes last year, we saw the protests. So we can't ignore this. And that's why, when I say, why is it so important for us to talk about this thing? First of all, it is because it's about building meaningful brands. The second thing is we'll lose our license to operate. We saw that with cigarettes, tobacco. Right now, we are seeing more and more countries saying no to fossil fuel advertising, no to carbon-intensive advertising. So there's a lot at stake here. And the interesting thing is the more brands have talked about this the last 20 years, the less people trust us. So we're doing something wrong. So I came from writing a book about purpose to saying, wait a moment, there's something wrong with the way we do purpose today. But maybe it's really not that surprising, because if you look at some of the data, most people say that they want to buy from purposeful brands, but not a lot of us follow through. So there's a gap of 39% of people who say that they want to do something and then they don't do it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you recognize that, right? You do your New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions? Yeah, where you pledge something for New Year's, you want to, yeah? So most of the time, a New Year's resolution is basically just another failed promise, right? That halfway into this new year, the running shoes are still lying there in the corridor. So let's try a little example here. I'm going to share mine. So I want to give you the opportunity, and I want the people on the beach to do the same, to share your New Year's resolution. So shout it out loud, so we're going to get to know each other a little bit better, okay? So I'm going to count down to 3, and then you shout it out loud. You're already shaking your head. I'm going to really listen to yours. So you ready? 3, 2, 1. I heard that all the people in Croatia are the most smart and beautiful people, and evidently so. But let's try and give you a second chance just to kind of get a little bit of change in the room, okay? So 3, 2, 1. Cool. Did you say get a girlfriend? Can somebody help him with that? It's a rap party tonight. Cool, so one of the things I wanted to change in my life, because I felt shitty about being on an airplane and going to Croatia and all that stuff, all that climate emissions and stuff. So I wanted to live more plant-based. So I wanted to go in a more vegetarian or vegan direction. So one of the companies who helped me do that was a company called Årstiderne. Don't try and even pronounce it. But anyways, it means seasons in Danish. And what they do is they deliver this box of farm fresh produce to my doorstep, and it comes with recipes. So in that way, they teach me how to create vegetarian and vegan food. I don't know how much you know about Danish food culture. A little bit? No? At one point, we had the world's best restaurant, Noma, other things. But when I grew up, it was terrible food. It was like pork meat, gravy, overboiled potatoes. Crap food. So now I had this brand that didn't go out and say we want to create a new food revolution, anything like that. When I interviewed the CEO, he talked about Earth connection. And this was a journey I had to be on myself. I had myself to discover this journey towards vegetarian and vegan food. And obviously, when you're on a journey, it's pretty good because nobody has to pay me for influencing my friends around me. Because when I'm successful and I created this beautiful vegan pie, obviously I'm gonna share that on social media. Most of the time, the reality probably looks a little bit more like this. So change is difficult. So if you think about where change happens, my first book I wrote, my light bulb moment, was a failed climate summit. The second book was because I fuck up so often. Things I want to achieve in my life, and I don't succeed. So I thought, maybe I was doing this thing the whole wrong way. Maybe we need to start with people first. So I looked to psychotherapy and coaching, because both those disciplines are goal-oriented. So I'm going to share a model with you how to build brands that inspire people to act. So this model is called the Arrow, and it asks 4 fundamental questions. First, what is it that you do? Those might be the running shoes. How are you unique in delivering that product or service? That might be because it's tested by athletes, maybe it's Croatian, whatever it might be. But the third one is really interesting. Who can you help people become? Think about the difference in leadership. If you ask the question, why do you exist? It becomes some sort of navel-gazing exercise, and you come up with some nonsense, as Patagonia is saying, we're in the business to save our home planet. But if you suddenly ask, who can you help people become? You're on a journey. You're a coach pushing people towards transforming. So let me give you a really good example of that, because it's a completely different way of building brands. So this is this company called Discovery. It's a South American health insurance company. And they talk about incentivizing people to live healthier. So it's not we're going to be transforming societies towards healthier living. Incentivizing. So it's something that talks both internally and externally in that organization. And they've been incredibly successful at doing that. Remember that 39% gap? So they have a thing that's called a Vitality Program. So let's say you want to stay fit, obviously, and Vitality Program is kind of like a classic reward program. So if you go down to the gym or you buy fruits and vegetables, they're going to reward you. So in that way, they're pushing you towards living a healthier life. And by doing that, it's suddenly good for brand and business. Because quite often, the problem with brands is that they say, let's do good, but on the other hand, we know profit, profit. So in this way, we can suddenly align the two things. So I think right now, in a world that's full of brands pitching themselves as a superhero, we need a new approach. Because my first book, Good Advertising, stopped with talking about a societal difference. So for example, if you're a car company like a Prius or Toyota or whatever, you talk about being a more environmentally friendly car. It's kind of crazy with advertising these days because I feel they add sustainability in front of everything. Diverse sustainability. It's kind of become the new long-lasting taste of chewing gums. But if you think about the question I asked in the beginning, who have actually created change in your life? That's when it becomes authentic. So how can you build transformation? How can you become a transformative brand? Because the brand I talked about, Årstiderne, they actually taught me something new. They opened my eyes towards something new. Suddenly I know how to do vegan food. It's not just a claim. So right now, I don't think people are buying your big purposes or your values, but they're really buying who you can help them become. So it's a completely different way of building brands. And let me give you another example. So Daniel Lubsevsky was an Israeli immigrant to the US. So he came from a very divided country to yet another very divided country. So he created a snack bar company, and I'll stand still for you. So he created a snack bar company, and his promise was that because the snack bar is made of ingredients that are kinder to the body and kinder to the planet, he promotes kindness. So again, I think it's something we can all need in these very, very divided times. So I was curious, and I was starting to ask myself, so does this sort of make business sense? You know, are transformative brands that ask who can I help people become? There's also seats in the front if you want. And welcome back from the beach. Lovely beach day, right? So I started asking myself, does this really make business sense? So I'll give you, so we did a survey, we did a piece of research where we compared 4 classic purposeful commercials with 4 classic transformative commercials. The first one we tested was Bud Light. And Bud Light talks about this Bud is for sort of climate and sustainability, and look at all those windmills we're doing. So a Bud for better tomorrow. So many brands have that. You know, better tomorrow, better yesterday, whatever it is. Full of cliches, to be honest. Compare that to another advert I'm sure all of us have seen through our years in advertising. Always like a girl. Hands up. We've all seen it, right? Yeah? Good, good. Most have. The premise here is anyway that they say that the sentence like a girl is most often a sentence that sort of implies weakness. So run like a girl, then you're not running as fast as the guys. Does that translate into Croatian as well? Yeah. It actually does in Danish as well. It's pretty disappointing. But anyway, so they wanted to change that, which is obviously much more of a transformative approach. So when we look at the numbers, the interesting thing is that on brand warmth, they're doing more or less the same. So we get the fuzzy feeling in the stomach no matter what. When it comes to competence, it's a bit different. So how competent we view that brand. I don't know how you feel about real estate agents. I hate them. But there's 2 types of real estate agents. There's this one real estate agent who always are like, we sold 1 million apartments in your street in Zagreb. We're the best, we'll sell any apartment. And then there's another real estate agent who are kind of like sitting there and having a conversation about why you're moving, what are the stuff that you're looking for, etc. I think the latter is the most competent. So it makes sense that the brand that is transformative is exactly like that. But the real difference is how motivated we feel. So in the always like a girl approach, obviously these young women feel motivated. They want to change. They feel inspired. So if we want to build purposeful brands, we need to step down from sort of that hero pedestal and say, not only are we doing the greatest toothpaste in the world, suddenly we're also greatest at being good in the world. It doesn't really make fucking any sense. And the next thing is, if we think about it, one thing we learned during COVID was that the best things in life aren't actually things. There's all that other stuff that in fact makes us happy, right? It's not buying those shoes. It's a sort of short-lived dopamine kick. But it's like learning new stuff, spending time with friends, singing, doing amazing stuff. How many of your brands are doing that? You're still just talking about selling products and how great you are or how great you are in the world. But what if brands could actually help us change? All of those sort of US pledges you shouted out loud, all of those is opportunity to create change as a brand. That's the only thing you need to do as a brand. Helping people live more connected lives. Help people be happier. Live more sustainably. All of these are an amazing opportunity for brands if they want to do it. So that's the whole idea about transformation. And the interesting thing is the most searched word last year on Google was, can I change? So people want to transform. And I think we are at a time where we as marketeers are extremely stressful. It's a difficult time to build brands in. But I think we found something here. And there's something about it as well, because if you think about human beings, what makes us human is this aspiration to become better. When I started in advertising, it was because I loved solving solutions. I absolutely love that. I'm still a wholehearted creative person. That sort of save the world thing, it's just a really nice add-on. But what keeps me up at night is the creative part. So if you think about it, for those of you who are a bit older, you know, it's about self-actualization. We want to go on this journey and learn ourselves to know a little bit better. Probably that's a pretty fake image, because it probably looks a little bit more like that today. But also ask yourself, when you found your transformative difference, when you can answer the question, who can you help people become? I want you to also think about how you can play a transformative difference in people's lives. Because retail, I know why retail is failing, because it's fucking boring. Why are we going into a store? There's just products on a shelf with prices, and often people are not very good at guiding us towards what we really want. So no surprise retail is failing. But let's talk about IKEA, and we all know IKEA, right? We know what IKEA is famous for. Breaking up couples, right? It's true though. Every time you go in that IKEA store, you always end up in an argument. I don't know why that is. So they find a two-folded solution here. They created these stores, smaller stores in cities around the world, instead of that small where you get into the argument. And behind the desk, there are designers sitting, ready to help you design your dream house. That's a store you want to go into, because they play a transformative difference in your life. So honestly, having been a purpose preacher for so many years, I'm getting really tired of purpose. I'm really getting tired of yet another toilet paper roll that's going to educate me of transgender rights or climate. I don't give a fuck. Give me a toilet paper that can wipe my ass, or figure out what you can do in my life. Think about your friends. Brands are no different than friends. You have friends who play different roles in your life. Somebody you want to call if you want to go for a sports game. Somebody who you want to call when you want to go to the nightclub tonight, if it's open. Is it open? Oh, it is open. Good news from Dunja. Good. Nightclub open. So there's people who are more climate activists. But you don't buy this idea that suddenly all your friends are climate activists, or suddenly all your friends are diverse. We're not buying that. So business is essentially changing rapidly. And I think it needs to change. Let me tell a story about a young girl called Marie Delacroix that I interviewed for my book. So she wanted to go and work in Starbucks because she really believed in Howard Schultz's idea about changing the community one cup of coffee at a time. But she didn't get the job because her hair was green. Apparently diverse, but green hair is too much. Not okay. Maybe you don't want green hair in your spice latte or whatever it's called. Anyways, so she created a company that she really believed in, called Wheelies. And the whole idea about Wheelies was not to be preachy. It was just for whatever people wanted to do with the love of coffee. So basically, it's like this little bicycle thing. So it's like a micro venture. And for those of you who don't have extremely rich parents and can go and buy a McDonald's restaurant or Starbucks restaurant, nag your parents for that, most of you can probably nag your parents for $15,000 to go and buy a Wheelies bike. So it's a really democratized model. So think about, again, that suddenly you have a business that's on your premises. You don't have to believe in Starbucks' vision. You can figure out your own vision. And it's so interesting that some of those wheelers, some of those micro-franchisees, they were so different. For example, the people in Jordan, they just wanted to go and work long hours. That's why they did it. There's another one that I interviewed up in Stockholm. They did it because they loved organic coffee. So I believe brands can sort of be two different things, and leadership can be two different things. When you go to work on your agency, what is that agency about? Is that about helping you grow, or is it about helping the company grow? Same thing with brands. I think brands need to be a vehicle, a platform for all of our growth. And also the other thing, most of the time I started with the whole like consumption thing. How the hell are we going to solve that? But if we really think about it, we don't really need that much more stuff. And so these guys, Tom and Max, they set out to create a completely different type of company because they thought, okay, they wanted to do something about running. And the thing, Tom and Max did yoga. I don't know how many, any people doing yoga, joined the yoga classes? Quite a few, half a yoga night, that's good. Half a yoga night. So what they did was they took what they learned in yoga and said, what if we practice that when we run? This idea about connecting your mind with your feet. So they started teaching people about mindful running. That was the transformation. Basically, they were selling a little bit slightly cooler running glasses, but that's not what they talked about. And what's even more interesting about it is they gave people mindful running classes. So suddenly they're selling a service, not just a product. Think about Red Bull, in fact. Red Bull is extremely well known, not just for selling this stupid, really bad tasting can, sorry Red Bull, but also for creating extreme sport events. So think about how your brand can stand and do something that's bigger than just plugging a product. And so let's just, towards the end, talk a little bit about activism, brand activism. Because I think at the moment, we're really fucking up a lot of brands. Because we're aspiring, pushing these brands to be way too good. Take again Patagonia as an example. They say vote the assholes out when good old Trump was in the White House. Eventually he got out, let's see if he gets back. But if you think about that statement, it's actually a really divisive statement. It's pitching them against us. It's very black and white. I believe that probably the best activist you can be is in fact uniting people, bringing people together. Because if you start pitching people against each other, you will eventually lose as a brand. So if you take a completely different approach, instead of going out and say, we believe in this, sort of like a crazy Elon Musk type visionary, rather maybe ask what people believe in and see if you can unite people. And let me give you one good example. On Black Friday, so the biggest shopping day of the year, you probably know this campaign very well, they said to people, opt outside. Go outside and enjoy nature. So it's an open participatory movement where everybody could do what they wanted, even the people who are now outside, lucky you guys. And by doing that, they were inspiring people one at a time. And if you actually look at what they achieved in a very short amount of time, they got millions of people participating. Millions of people to go outside. So if you know better, if you are passionate about the climate, I think it's not about telling people to be wrong or right or bully the people who don't believe in climate change. I would rather say go help them, go inspire them, go push them in the back and help them see that maybe there's a thing about climate. And this essentially comes down to leadership. And I believe that the best leaders I have had in my life has been the one that helped me grow. Take relationships, for example. I think we've all been there at one point, right? So as a guy, there's always a battle with toilet seats. You all know that, right? I don't know what it is with toilet seats. There's always this thing. So you have your girlfriend who says to you, put down the toilet seat, Thomas. So that's the beginning of the little journey, right? So she starts telling you, put down the toilet seat. And of course you forget it, right? So saying. Second point, doing. So now you want to see action. So you start remembering casually putting down that toilet seat just to build the warm relationship that you had in the beginning, because you don't want the relationship to fail. But if you actually think about what keeps the relationship together, it's not the saying or the doing, it's in fact how I make her feel. And I think that's essentially what brands need to be doing. We're tired of saying, or we're tired of hearing brands say and do stuff. We want them to really play that transformative difference in our lives. And when we do that, we inspire people to act. And as I said, we are pretty fucked in terms of when we need to act. If we look at this book called The Great Acceleration, it really paints a pretty dire, depressing picture of how the world looks like. So the thing about change is, I know that in Croatia you guys like smoking. I've seen quite a few cigarettes during this festival. Probably quite a few of you have tried to kind of fight those cigarettes, right? The interesting thing about that is you can have your loved ones tell you to quit those cigarettes, you know. You can have your doctor tell you. They can even try and kind of scare you with one of those horrible images on the pack. The only thing you do with that is just pretty much just ignore looking at that super, super awful picture. But the reality of all of this is the only one who can create that change is you. And so I know I started with a pretty provocative picture of Jesus, but it is really to say that if we are to solve this crisis that we're in right now, if we want to build what I would call post-purpose brands, because people are tired of listening to another world-bettering brand, it's not about making the brand the hero. It's about making all of us in this room the heroes. And I think there's an amazing opportunity to do that, because there's so many things that we want to change in our lives. There's so many things where we want to be better. And the brands who essentially get that right are the ones who, first of all, change the leadership from asking the navel gaze why we exist to thinking about who they can help people become. Secondly, it's really about understanding that transformative difference and think about how you can deliver that in your stores, wherever you have a touch point with people. And lastly, my belief is that we as an industry, we know that climate reports say we need urgent mobilization. I think we can do that as an industry. And that is my guts belief that we can do that. But we can only do that if we inspire people one person at a time. So that's what I had to share with you today. If you scan that little QR code, you can learn more. You can join my mission. And as I said as well, I did promise some of you a book. I know we have times for questions. So for those of you who are in the room, I have 2 books to give out, but we'll do that after the Q&A. But I guess time for questions. Yes, yes. Thank you. Oh.
I wanted to say bravo, job well done in Danish, so I Googled it. It turns out it's bravo. So,
perfect.
Bravo.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. My Danish it's getting better
good.
and better.
It's getting better.
I made fun of him. I said in my head that every Danish guy and, well, the Danes sound all the same to me. Melodically, it sounds like hole, 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 hole. And he said that I'm getting there. So, bravo, you did a great job. Let's do the questions. What Danish brand comes to mind to you that hits the mark on sustainability and which does not? Danish brand.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how much you know about Danish brands per se. There's Lego, there's Maersk, there's so many. I think there's one that I really love, which is called Ørsted. And it's an energy company that started doing oil and gas, and now have transformed themselves towards only doing offshore wind energy. So I think that's a really good case of a company that has transformed its whole production.
For those who work for global companies and locally here in this region especially, people don't trust sustainable messaging. So what would you suggest?
I don't trust them either, so I get it. I think that's why it needs to be much more about transformation. I think it really needs to be about playing a tangible difference in my life. It's so easy to say we believe in food waste, but if you can't push me toward food waste, are you really doing anything? So if you take, for example, Hellmann's as an example, a Unilever brand, they really talk about the role of their brand as a great brand fit. If you have leftovers in the kitchen, you add mayonnaise, you eat it. But they also try and encourage people to actually cut food waste. So in that way, it's believable because I can feel the difference in my own life. So I think that's what you got to inspire towards. And secondly, I would say that the thing is, one thing I absolutely hate about most messaging is that most brands always say we want to change in 2030, 2040. I mean, we're not going to fucking wait around. I mean, if your girlfriend or boyfriend said, you know, I know I fucked up over the last couple of years, but, you know, in 2030, 2040, I'm going to be a good girlfriend or boyfriend again, you'd probably be out of there anyways. So
it wouldn't matter anyway.
Exactly.
Don't you think that brands and sustainability are oxymorons in the first place? We don't need to grow sustainable brands. We need to cut brands. Oh.
Who said that? Interesting.
Anonymous.
Anonymous, yeah. You know, it's kind of like talking about advertising and sustainability is kind of like promoting peace at a weapons conference. I think it is oxymorons in some ways, but also do believe that we as an industry have this unique ability to understand people and understand what motivates them and captivate them with amazing storytelling. And I think we can use that for something better. It's like we heard a million times during this festival around AI. I mean, you can use that tool for something good or something bad.
Do you think that the big companies that produce packaged food and beverage for a living can change, and how? It's easy for the small ones, isn't it? Is it easier for the small ones?
I'm sure we have somebody from Coca-Cola here that can answer that question. Of course, it's easier for smaller brands to change faster and choose the right materials, but I think for big brands, there's such an amazing opportunity with scale. And I think over the next couple of years, I think if they really want to excel, they need to use that scale for something amazing and try and bring people together or try and create something on a more systemic level, whether that is changing regulation or whether that is, for example, finally owning up to like wasteful packaging or whatever it might be. So I think they have a role to play.
How would you, this one's from Robert, how would you describe Croatia as a brand?
Where do we have Robert? Where's Robert? There's Robert. Okay, so I know nothing about...
You're going to get slapped.
Yeah, I know nothing about country branding, so thank you for asking a really ignorant question. So you'll win a book. So there you are. Come on, Robert.
Thank you very
Well done, well done. Croatia as a brand. That was the question, right?
Yeah.
How would you
describe Croatia as a brand?
It's so unfair because honestly, I've been coming to Croatia since I was 7. I in fact learned to swim in Croatia. So the way there's 2 people wowing, whether it was for me for swimming or just because I'm tall, I can swim. You know, height doesn't. No, but yeah, what would be Croatia be? It would be the people, the lovely, warm people. That would be the thing. Yes. Another. That's like clapping of yourself. That's so. Yeah.
Okay, now this is a very Croatian question.
Yeah.
I mean, these people love you, but they have to ask you questions like this. How did you arrive to Rovinj? Which transportation option did you take? You understand where this is going?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Angel wings. No, Viking boat. No, I flew. I flew here.
But it wasn't a private plane.
Unfortunately not, no. Unfortunately not. No, I think, again, the flying thing, I think this is the thing when we talk about activism again. I really wholeheartedly believe activism has a big role to play in changing these things. And for example, recently, activists got private jets out of Schiphol Airport in Holland, so that's great. But I think we also sometimes need to understand that it's not just a single-sided thing. It's great to travel. Travel unites people, unites cultures. So I think we always need to ask ourselves the balanced thing that maybe climate win, but something else lose. So unfortunately, I flew, but good question. Who asked that question?
Anonymous.
Oh,
here.
You thought you'd win a book. You'll
okay.
get my water instead, and I haven't been drinking it. Yeah, free glass of water. Here you are. Thank you.
Okay, how to promise meaningful changes and not sound over-promising from FMCG brands?
That is really the one key question that provoked me to write the book. And I think it is because quite often you go out and say, we're diverse, we're green, instead of actually thinking about how the hell can you play a meaningful role in people's lives? What is it that all of us are battling with? I know a lot of young people today grow up with sort of being climate anxious, and rightly so, because things are not looking good 20, 30 years from now. Already now it's a challenge. So I think they need to transform their leadership and not be self-focused, but actually think about what role they want to play in people's lives.
Okay, next question, greenwashing. How can we convince CEOs to stop being ignorant?
To stop what?
Being ignorant.
Any CEOs in the room? I think, we're all human beings. I don't think, maybe there's a few scumbags out there, a few scumbag CEO, but wholeheartedly, I think all of us are generally good people. So I think it's about building a convincing business case for why sustainability matters. And I think there are so many reasons today for doing that and very, very few for not doing it. So it should be an easy sell.
Any examples? Some of the worst greenwashing examples, that if you can think of any.
You can open a newspaper on a daily basis, I would say.
Unfortunately.
I know I have this monthly podcast with Ad Age, and that's called Purpose Hits and Misses. And I had a really, really good one there a week ago from United Airlines. And they had this stupid Sesame Street poppy in the advert, and they talked about sustainable aviation fuel. Such a horrendous ad from United Airlines. You can, if you search Ad Age, Purpose Hits and Misses, you can see it. I'm sure you'll agree. Horrible ad.
Okay. Is it only selling emotions to customers? Shouldn't governments take care of sustainability?
I'll even say that maybe we ought to own up to it ourselves. I think it's very, very easy to point fingers at your government or brands and say they're not doing enough. As I said, I fucked up a lot. I came here on an airplane. So I think we also need to own up to it ourselves. I think in the European Union, we have charter and charter regulation. That's great. But obviously, brands have a big role to play. But I think they can win by doing that. And that's the thing. Yeah.
What made you quit copywriting?
Who asked that question to a guy who just wrote a book? That was a really offensive question. I love that. Yeah, I think I still write. I love writing. It's still what I'm passionate about. What I didn't really like writing too much was just like horrible catalogs. It's just like endless horrible catalogs where you had to add so many superlatives to a running shoe, so it just didn't feel genuine. Yeah, so that's probably why I sort of, wasn't.
Okay, the last one comes from Gabby. What can you do if you have a brand with great purpose, audience, and sustainability, but people are just ignorant to all these things and not reacting to like they should?
Wow, it seems like it's not one of your customers. I think it is about telling compelling stories. Hopefully hire a really good ad agency that can fix that. I think purpose often ends up, as I said, being a very black and white matter. And I think there's so much truth in the grays. And I think the most activist thing you can do is, in fact, to unite people. So I think that's what the brand needs to do. And where's Gabby? Gabby, there you are. See, you won my old book, so you can read about how the world was 10 years ago. No, there's lots of great examples of companies doing amazing stuff. And that also goes to show that I even fucked up in my first book because I have a lot of ads in there that when I look back at them, I'm like, fuck it, greenwashing. Because I don't know how many of you remember all the old advertising folks in this room might remember an old ad called Honda Grr, which was like a Grand Prix winner some years ago in Cannes, hate something, change something, promoting a diesel engine, a beautifully illustrated advert. No, not, okay. Everybody's under 30 apparently. Yeah, we are as well, yes. Okay,
I'm
good.
18,
Anyways, but
I'm
that was a
sorry.
greenwashing bullshit ad, but yeah, still a beautiful animation. Yes?
Thomas, you did great. Bravo,
you.
once
Thank
again,
you.
in
Thank
Danish.
you.
Bravo.
Thank you. Bravo.
Dajte jedan veliki aplauz za Tomasa Kolstera. Thank you. Enjoy your beer. Mi se vidimo ovdje za 12 minuta. Nastavljamo dalje, naravno, sa programom. U 15... U 15? Ne, u 16 sati. Zamolit ću vas da svi napustite dvoranu. Samo zato što mi na papiru zaokruženo piše svi moraju izaći van. Vidimo se ovdje za 11 minuta.
Mr. D.